Palm Sunday, the Monday that follows Palm Sunday, is the day that Jesus cleared out the temple. Now, the scripture text tells us that Palm Sunday, he came into the city. The city was very, very crowded, of course, because people could not travel on the Sabbath. Now, the Sabbath was over, and they were coming in for the Passover week. So the city would have been very, very crowded. And this is when the triumphant entry took place as they came from Bethany and over the Mount of Olives and down into the city of Jerusalem. Jesus he went to the temple first, and he saw the people selling sheep and birds and everything in the court of the Gentiles, which I mentioned in the previous quote, the previous text, the previous video recording. And he didn't do anything then, but he came back the next day. He went back to Bethany that night and came back the next day. And this is when, as the scripture says, he wove a cord of and started to drive the animals, driving the merchants out of the temple. See, here's the thing. The Caiaphas and his father-in-law Annas, who had been the previous high priest, this whole family had a monopoly on the sale of animals in the temple. Now, according to Moses' law, you had to bring in an unflawed animal. You couldn't bring in an animal about to die and say, oh, I guess it's going to die anyway, I guess I'll go ahead and sacrifice it. No, you had to bring an unflawed animal into the temple for the blood sacrifices that you made. So you had to come to the temple. Let's say you were coming from Nazareth and it was a 3-day walking trip to come to Jerusalem. You would be driving your animals along the way, leading them, driving them along the way as you reach Jerusalem. That's a long trip and a lot of trouble. And let's say that when you get there, the temple peoples dream up, inspect closely your animals and find some flaw in them, because then you are required to buy an animal from them. And you're basically caught in that situation because you have already made this long trip down to Jerusalem or up to Jerusalem. And now here you are and you need to have an animal for the sacrifice, and you are right there. And these are animals which are pre-approved animals that will be okay. Yes, they are inflated in price, and it's gouging the customer base, gouging the people. And this has a very long history, this kind of thing. God is very well aware of what the kind of thing that these were doing, that these people were doing. You can look at Old Testament scriptures of God denouncing the religious leaders of Israel. Here are 2 examples. One is in Jeremiah 23. Concerning the prophets, my heart is broken within me, all my bones tremble. I am like a drunk man, like a strong man overcome by wine, because of the Lord and his holy words. The land is full of adulterers because of the curse. The land lies parched, and the pastures of the wilderness are withered. The prophets follow an evil course and use their power unjustly. Both prophet and priest are godless. Even in my temple I find their wickedness. Therefore their path will become slippery. They will be banished to darkness, and there they will fall. I will bring disaster on them in the year they are punished. This is just that was Jeremiah 23, and starting with verse 9 through 12. And then he goes on to say, they are lying prophets. I did not send them. And in days to come, you will understand it clearly. I did not send these prophets, yet they have run with their message. I did not speak to them, yet they have prophesied. If they had stood in my counsel, God speaking, they would have proclaimed my words to my people and would have turned them from their evil ways and from their evil deeds. Am I only a God nearby and not a God far away, declares the Lord? Who can hide in the secret place so I do not see him? Do I not fill heaven and earth? I have heard what the prophets say, who prophesy lies in my name. They said, I had a dream, I had a dream. How long will this continue in the hearts of these lying prophets, who prophesy the delusions of their own minds? They think the dreams they tell one another will make my people forget my name. Okay, so this is God speaking regarding the prophets and priests in the time of Jeremiah. And you can check also the time of Ezekiel. Ezekiel 34. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel, prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to you, shepherds of Israel, who only take care of yourselves. Should not shepherds take care of the flock? You eat the curds, clothe yourself with the wool, and slaughter the choice animals, but you do not take care of the flock. You have not strengthened the weak, or healed the sick, or bound up the injured. You have not brought back the strays, or searched for the lost. You have ruled them harshly and brutally. So they are scattered, because there was no shepherd. And when they were scattered, they became food for all the wild animals. My sheep wandered over all the mountains and every high hill. They were scattered over the whole earth, and no one watched or looked after him. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, because my flock lacks a shepherd, and so has been plundered, and so has become food for the wild animals, and because my shepherds did not search for my flock, but cared for themselves rather than for my flock. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against the shepherds and will hold them accountable for my flock. I will remove them from tending the flock, so that my shepherds can no longer feed themselves. I will rescue my flock from their mouths, and it will no longer be food for them. So, with this kind of text that from two of the major prophets of the Old Testament in the background, you can see when Jesus made his denunciation of scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites in Matthew 23, there was already a long history of this kind of thing. Hucksterism done by religious leaders has been a long problem, and there have been people who led cults of various kinds. Oh, perhaps the most famous one would be the Jimmy Jones one, but Jim Jones and their leader of his People's Temple Christian Church, all of whom ended up at the end drinking the cyanide-laced Kool-Aid and follow him and going with him to death. Now, in the New Testament church, we have these warnings that come. Paul says to Titus, he says he sees these people, as we stop, they are upsetting whole families by teaching things they should not teach, and they do it to get rich by cheating people. And so it's so when you listen to a minister, analyze the words, and note the emphasis of the message. What's the burden? Is it your salvation, or is it their or your donation? Listen closely to what is said, and are you promised health if you give and hell if you don't? If this is what's been going on, it's sneaky, it's insulting, it's manipulative, it's greedy, and and this kind of thing has to be fought against, and that's what Jesus did. So another thing that these priests were doing is, see, the Ten Commandments said, you shall have no other graven image. So the temple shekel, by this time, not like Abraham's time, but by this time, the shekel referred to a coin. It referred to coinage had been invented in the 600s or so A.D., BC, and now, before, a shekel used to refer to a unit of weight, unit of measurement of weight. So much, a shekel was so much amount of silver or gold or whatever. But now the coinage had been invented, and so the shekel was a coin. And of course, the Roman coins carried an image of the emperor on the coin. And since there's a scripture, you shall not make into even engrave an image, so those kind of coins, because they had an image on them, were banned from the temple. And so when people brought their money, they had to change the money for, of course, a fee, which is just another way of these of the priests, the Sadducees, making money off of everyone who came to the temple. And if you think this is irrelevant because it doesn't happen or something now today, I don't know where you've been, because you can go to almost any general conference, you can do the major convention, and you can see all kinds of ways that people manipulate in order to get funding for support for themselves. Now, for example, let's say that, for example, let's say there's a youth department, and one of their projects is to raise money for missionaries, cars. So let's say there's a ladies department, and one of their projects is to raise money for missionaries' appliances, home appliances, just to use these examples. And you need to look and see what percentage of my offering actually goes for the purpose. Because if you don't do that, you see, you're cheating the donors, because the donors think that 100% of the money they donate goes for that project. Naturally, they think that because that's what was said. We are raising money for this project. And if instead 50% or 40% of that offering is going to stay in your state and to fund ladies' events or youth events or something like that, this needs to be transparent. This needs to be out in the open. This needs to be said, printed, written, distributed, so that people know that when they give, what the amount is being given for this or for that purpose, and that a certain cut is being taken for this or that purpose. If you don't make that clear and transparent and open, then that's fraud. You are saying that you are raising money for this purpose, when in fact it's not going for that purpose. And it is basically lying to the people, because you are taking money for one reason, but you are not using it for that reason. It's stealing from the people, because you are taking their donation for another purpose, for not the purpose for which they're giving it. And it's basically cheating. So, cheating the people. So lying, stealing, cheating, this is not the kind of behavior that a Christian should be involved in. And yet, Christian church denomination departments do this regularly. And so it's very, very sad. And now, where this was all happening was in the court of the Gentiles. This was the only place that non-Jews could come, the closest place that non-Jews could come to worship the Lord. And so this was the house of prayer for non-Jews. And so Jesus was very unhappy about the fact that these people, these hucksters, these people profiteering off of the public for the sake of their religious observations, these folks were turning the house of prayer for most of the world's population. They were turning that into a market, a bazaar. And so Jesus drove out these and said, my Father's house will be called a house of prayer, and you've turned it into a den of thieves, a robber's den. So, of course, when he did this, the Pharisees were very, very unhappy. The Sadducees, even more so, were very, very unhappy with him, and said, basically, who do you think you are? Where do you get the authority to do this? Notice their emphasis on authority. They are running the temple. So, yes, they want to think in terms of authority. And so they say, where did you get the authority to do this? So then he said, Jesus replied, I will answer your question if you will answer one from me. John the Baptist, was his authority from God or from man? Answer me. So they went into a huddle, and their response was, if we say that John the Baptist got his authority from man, then the people will be very angry with us because they feel he's a prophet. If we say he got his authority from God, then Jesus will say, why didn't you do what he said then? So they were caught, they were trapped, and they said, we don't know, we can't say, we can't tell. And Jesus said, so you won't answer me, okay, then I won't answer you either with as regarding who gave you the authority to do this. He told a story to them, and he said a man had two sons, and one of them, he told him to do something, and the older son said, sure, Dad, but then he didn't do it. Sorry, the younger son said, sure, Dad, I'll do it, but he didn't. The older son at first said, refused, no, but then he thought better of it, and he went and did it. Which son obeyed his father? And of course, the answer is obvious. The older son was the one who obeyed his father. And Jesus said, you see, though these people, that these ne'er-do-wells, as they thought, the tax collectors and sinners, the people who were scorned by the religious establishment of Jerusalem, Jesus said, these people will get to heaven before you do, because John the Baptist came preaching God's message, and they listened to him, and they did what he said. And you, the establishment, you simply asked John, who do you think you are? Where do you get your authority? Where do you get the same question they were now asking Jesus? So this is the lesson of Monday, the lesson of this day when Jesus cleaned out the temple and also scolded, rebuked. You can read Matthew 23 to see the eloquence in which Jesus denounces the religious establishment of his day, and stands for what is said, what is truth, what is right, what is good, and what is honest. God bless you all.